So now that we know what we want to do, let's do it. So first step is I'm going to try and show you guys how to delete this that I just updated manually or created manually. You can just you can choose to delete the actual single document right here. You can delete the actual all documents for this user, also deleting the actual collection. So I'll just do this right here. I'll delete not only the documents but also the collection so that we have a clean Firestore database again. Because I want the Firestore database to kind of prove to you that is pretty powerful what we're going to do. I'm going to have the code automatically create the user's collection and automatically add the first user for us if he doesn't exist. So what do we want? Well, step one is I kind of want to add a new function right here called update. Now the update is just going to be a function that can update a user, right? So let's just add right here that I'm going to send in a user. That's of course the user I want to use for updating the data. And let's just for now keep it simple like this. So I'm going to make a function right here that where we can pass in a user with all the information that we want to store inside the Firestore database for this specific user. So he also has right here the user ID that he got from the authenticated user, right? So now we know that this is a very specific user and we can then add the user like I just showed you in the last lesson. Sweet, how do we do that? Well, we need access, you guessed it, to Firestore. So how do we do that? Well, step one is to kind of have the Firestore module in our system. So we're going to go into the user module and we're going to add a new module right here called Angular Firestore module. There it is. Now remember, it's not storage. That's for saving file. It's store, right? You have to remember that. Sometimes I've picked the other one by mistake, but it's actually Firestore, not storage, because we're working with a database here called Firestore, not a file storage system, which is the other one. Sweet. So now that we have that, we can actually import now, or dependency inject, sorry, an actual service here that can help us work with Firestore. It's just called Angular Firestore, not module now, but just Angular Firestore. And this guy can actually connect to our database and start working with the database. Sweet. Now what do we use this for? Well, we're going to say whenever people want to update, when they want to use our function right here, we're going to say this AFS, the Firestore access point, right? And we're going to say get a specific document in there. Now remember again, maybe I deleted the document too fast, but remember we had a collection of users. Let's just try and jump in there again. We had a collection. I'll just add that. McJam. It's back. Sweet. So again, we are trying to find a specific document in the users collection. How would you do that in Firestore? Well, let's just try this out. So step one is that we're going to say we're looking for a specific document, right? That makes sense. And we want to find a specific document inside the users path, right? So that's again the users collection, or the path is the users. And then inside that one, we're looking for a very specific document that contains the unique ID of the user that I'm passing in right here, right? So I'm trying to find that specific user. Now, if he doesn't exist, I'll create it for you. That's what Firebase does for us. But if he does exist, I want to set some data on this guy. What data do I want to set? Well, I would just want to set the actual user into this guy, right? So this is pretty easy. That pretty much just means that if I find a user, if I do not find the user, I'll create him. If I find the user, I'll set some information on the document, right? So I'll just update the document if the user exists. And if he doesn't exist, I'll just create the user and set the document information right here. And then I'll do something specific here. I'll say when I'm done, I want to return a promise right here of any type, because that's kind of what this guy returns right here. If I mouse over, it says, you're ignoring promise, don't do that. So I'll just do a return statement right here, and I'll return that promise. Now, it doesn't really bring anything to the table, this promise, but we can use that to kind of pop up and say, congratulations, you updated your user, right? That's kind of the goal. That's what we can use it for. So now we actually have an update function available, and we're going to try and use it next lesson. So I'm just going to go and clean up my database, and then we're going to next lesson try and actually update the user when we actually save our user right here. See you next time. Have fun.